but I really got it, that the suffering was a choice, and that the experience of everything, it's really about choosing that I actually want to feel good, and that it is as simple as choosing every time, choosing life.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and seafood Taoist Master San Qing, and I have another meeting of the minds, a bonding and unification of the present moment. I want to welcome to the podcast an incredible being, Jana Stern, a psychic and astrologer. Welcome to the podcast, my dear friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful that we finally, the stars aligned for us today. It took
Yes,
us a minute.
it's always exciting when there is that aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
Sherlock to your Watson. Elementary, my dear Watson. This present moment is all we have.
Isn't it just?
Right. So why don't we share a little bit with the audience, a little bit about you and, abbreviated version about how you got to this very moment.
Yeah. Oh, how I got to this moment. It's been a long and winding road. Um, so usually I start the story of me off with, that as a child, I was very gifted, very, very bright, very intelligent. I am of a lineage that we all collected crystals, and my grandmother, my grandfather, and my grandmother's father all had huge collections. These are actually remnants of their collections. I'm in my grandmother's house right now, um, and so they just had dozens and dozens of stones collected over generations. And my grandfather worked in the oil rigs, and so he had so many stones, so many crystals. And I would sit and I would listen as a child, and they would sing songs and tell me stories, and they would like illuminate things for me and tell me things and guide me, and I would just sit and listen. And as I got older, my father, my grandmother, this grandmother's son, was diagnosed schizophrenic and bipolar, and he had a really, really intense experience with that when I was very young. And it was a big process over my lifetime, and it is an ongoing process of many ups and many, many downs, lots of cycles of on meds, off meds, up, downs. And then as I got older, I started to realize that I could hear these voices, and I immediately started to like equate, okay, the voices, hearing voices is bad. Clearly, I'm being told. What does that mean about me? And so I had this big fear that I was going to like wake up one day and just like become him. And the fear got to be, as fears do, like quite looming and big and overwhelming and scary. And I manifested an eating disorder, and that, to try to maintain control of something, I was like, I'm in a body, I'm in control of my body. Then that wasn't working, and it led to an attempt on my own life. And in that moment, I was gone for 11 minutes, and a lot happened in that time. And when I came back, I was different. When I came back, I had a purpose that I wasn't sure I could fulfill, but now I'm grateful to say that I am. And it's been, many years since then, almost 20, that, I've been really working towards loving myself and teaching others to do the same. That experience activated tons of gifts for me, psychic gifts, mediumship, all of that kind of good stuff. And it really just put me on the path of, I got to do something different. And so in the process of healing after my attempt, I started to dive into spirituality and, work with oracle cards and do meditations. And that led me into the world of metaphysics. And that led me into the world of everything deeper and deeper. My grandmother had been somebody who was always into astrology. And I was like, I gotta learn this. I gotta go deeper. And so that became also part of my practice. And so I've been studying astrology and metaphysics and all of those things, and I bring them all into my practice, into my gifts, in my readings and my coaching, my guiding, all of that kind of good stuff. So, and sometimes even on my own podcast, which I love. So there's lots of facets of me. Like I said, it's been a long and winding road.
Right. Yeah, it's always that the crumbs on your seeking and inquiry and the curiosity, and it comes in different forms. I've kind of been on this conscious path myself, probably cranking up biologically about 32 years of knowing this space. And that has been a very sobering reality for what you perceive as reality. And then furthermore, how that transmutes into an inquiry, to a hope, to a belief system, to a knowing, is this incredible seeking, this journey that it takes to get there, and then self-realization and validating that. And I feel very grateful for you that you were in a state of awareness that took you past a very fleeting moment that was transitory and quite clearly not real, that led you to something that could have been permanent within this incarnation. So, I mean, I'm very familiar with these sort of states of psychoses that, most people will feel as though they're imprisoned by. And there's always a regret when they
Yes.
step over that threshold, especially in this particular subject. I've had, I've dealing with spirit entities and people, transitioning people. I've done, hundreds, if not close to, leading into 1,000
Mm.
people that are on their so-called proverbial deathbed, leading to something greater, embodying that from transition to realization of who they really are. And of course, the magic of your epiphany and being able to get to something beyond what you thought it was, so many different variables. However you discover it, whatever that means to you, and how you were able to move through that and develop these incredible skills and insight, wisdom, and the ability to share that with others.
Yeah, it's that decision. I often, when I talk about my NDE, I often speak about that I was given a choice. And I was given a choice. I didn't have to come back, but I really had this clear understanding that, like, no, there's more to be done. And it's important that I do it.
Mm.
And it's something that I'm so grateful that I did come back, that I'm still here, that I'm still doing this, that I'm able to be who I am and to use my voice and my gifts the way that I do. Many people who have those kinds of ideations and those types of struggles, they struggle all their lives, until the end. And many of them meet very early ends because the idea of suffering longer, um, is dreadful and hard to live with. But I really got it, that the suffering was a choice, and that the experience of everything, it's really about choosing that I actually want to feel good, and that it is as simple as choosing every time, choosing life. And it's also as complex as choosing life. But it's something that I'm really, really, really grateful for. And whenever I encounter people who want to communicate with loved ones who have taken their own lives, um, I'm always quick to say they made the decision to go home to something because staying was too hard, but never do they feel peaceful in the way that those who cross differently feel peaceful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I can summons a dozen people that are earthbound right now that I've helped guide them in certain paths that led to imminent mortality.
Mm.
Now that was a longer stretch than they would have had without the guidance of more
Sure.
insight. But
Right.
I've only ever once in my journey ever come across someone that wants to stay there. Not interested in transferring or crossing over. They just want to sit in that earth plane as a turbulent sort of stagnant energy that just wants to observe the
Hmm.
outcome of their demise, which is always so sad and shallow in that sense if you want to pass judgment. But
Yeah.
truthfully, I mean, the commandeering of your attention, intention with the idea that your thoughts are yours is the first seed of deception and ultimately manipulation that you get into a situation. From my perspective, being an ordained Taoist priest in two lineages of Taoism, one of the fundamental pillars of alchemy within our rituals is exorcism. So I've been doing that a long time, and it makes the Hollywood movies look like a joke, kind of. When you see it really happen, it's quite interesting. I remember my mother I had in a channeling class many decades ago, and she said, "Oh, I want to check this out." We started to basically start with the session, and I had
Hmm.
about 30 students. One channels, the other one takes notes and asks questions. And we came across something that commandeered this particular individual, and
Hmm.
she went from sweet Sally from the Sunday, lunch to
Hmm.
something more in the realm of demonic and very low frequency. But of course, this is all hinged on the development of her own perception of reality. I must let people understand that everything that you experience is of your creation. So that was a leading sort of part where, so in my business, it's kind of like oppression,
Hmm.
depression, possession is the very outcome of a lot of these circumstances. And, clearly you have merged and moved past that moment. And it's quite evident by what you're experiencing, what you're sharing today.
Thank you. Yeah, I often speak of my life as being somewhat liberated, that I'm like self sovereign in a way that I don't think most people are.
Right.
I think I'm still obviously reliant on a system. I live in the world, but there are a lot of systems that I just simply do not subscribe to. And I see them from a perspective of being so far removed from them that it perplexes me that people still buy into it. Um, you were saying earlier about conspiracy theories, and I said I think that this entire reality is a conspiracy because it kind of is. You're just sort of making it all up with your mind, and you're reinventing the atoms to formulate the way that you need them to, so that you feel safe. But it's not real, and I think that we're starting to understand that a little bit collectively, but I'm really grateful to feel it individually, even if, and almost because it makes me other. It makes me outside. It makes me, as I say on my website and in many places, it makes me the psychedelic sheep. I stand out like a psychedelic, thumb in the black and white of it all, which I'm grateful for. I think it's a blessing. And I think when I was younger and feeling that low vibration, that depression, that compression, like all of that felt like I didn't, like it was all just happening at me, it was all happening to me, because I didn't understand what was happening for me, which was that I was actually being given this opportunity to like break a generational curse, to say, yeah, I do hear voices, and I'm still human, and my opinions are valid, and the things that I think are true, and I can see a cosmic reality, and there is a self, right? Like I'm in a system, but I'm not of a system, I'm in a body, but I'm not of the body, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating watching people as a seeker, and we refer to them as a Taoist seeker if you're on the path of, that path of remembering. And
Mm,
through that, you acquire that spark of the primordial mother, the compression, the densing spark from the void to the primordial womb, creating something that would be sort of like any 9 cycle is relevant to the evidence of a Taoist seeker.
Mm.
So that could become more in line with something perhaps maybe you're more familiar with within astrology, and maybe if you dabble into neurology or numerology, you know that these things are present in everything, and you start to get your own little crumbs so that you have your elementary, my dear Watson, moment
Yeah.
where you find that, see, that charge you got right now, that's the visceral acceptance that you and I bond, as you and I unify, as you and I acclimate to the present moment. That is the visceral, somatic, kinesthetic now moment that cannot be replicated. You cannot be no place, no person, no thing if you are not of that resonance.
Mm.
And that resonance is an acquisition. That acquisition comes in the form of, light to wave to matter to particle, realized with your attention, intention, forming and shaping from the primordial mother, the thread and the fabric of this reality, creating distortion through your attention, intention, manipulating and distorting this reality into a currency that we're familiar with,
Yeah.
energy, electromagnetism. And that is the fascinating tool that you use to decipher your path as a Taoist seeker, to find and remember, return to your true self. For there you find a point of no return, where you are detached and then attached to all things. Your ultimate realization is your imperium, your ability to master and maestro all things of the present moment, making manifestation, magic, healing now. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
baby. Austin Powers, sometimes
I
I
love
throw
that movie.
into that. Yeah.
That movie is me being like, I'm not of the system, but come on, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. You gotta love yourself some Austin Powers, or like any good classic, 90s, early 2000s movie gets me every time. Or like some Simpsons quotes, I'm in. Um, but yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that the appreciation of the moment of now is so lost. Our attentions are so displaced, misplaced, so many places. I mean, I know people who are, they're neurodivergent and they've got 3 screens going at once. They're something over here and something over there and something over there. And it's so hard to just be in center. And that practice, I think, is the difference between those who can feel like they are surviving and those who feel like they are thriving. If you can really be in the now, like really and truly, and not let your mind go too far from where you are to the next thing, I think that there's strength in that will help us to survive whatever is coming next. Because 2025 looks real interesting to me. Like the astrology of it, every single outer planet, all of the big ones, they're all going to move into new signs, which means that great change is coming. And it's impossible to know how that will look. I mean, I don't even know what the heck I'm going to be doing in a month from now, So as we kind of face this time, it's really, really fascinating to see. I always say, when you're somebody who's grounded, if you're standing and you're just on your feet and somebody pushes you, you will stumble backwards. But if you're grounded on your haunches and you're sort of in the here and the now, somebody goes to push you, you're rooted in such a way that you're not going to fall over nearly as easily. And so, this grounding of now is just like, it's of the utmost importance, I think, to where we need to go as a species, particularly as there are clearly forces outside of us, as well as technologies that draw us away from the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the ultimate is your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with.
Sure.
An absolute truth that anyone might present you, you should about face and run in the other direction, because the only absolute truth is yours. And
Mm.
to obtain that present moment, to obtain the now, is of no place, no person, no thing. You cannot obtain that frequential now in any other format. And there comes the method behind the madness. There is a method, there is a methodology behind cultivating and acquiring that state of now. From a Taoist seeker perspective, we look at everything as a bellows. That's it. Everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And I get, Jifu, what in Tao's name does that mean? My head is going to blow off. And I'm like, okay, now let's acquire an understanding of this contracting and expanding. This is reality, and it is happening regardless of your attention intention. What is not present is man is not like that. Man is not like a bellows. Man is limited. So if you identify with the flesh and blood that looks back before you in the mirror as your self, you are mistaken, you are distorted, you are distracted from the now moment. That said, how do we find that inquiry, that curiosity, that desire to fall into that path of the Shazam moment that becomes your Sherlock to your Watson? Elementary, my dear Watson, we refer to it as the Wu Ji. So within the breath in and the breath out, which is a representation of all things, the decipherer of the Taoists is the yin and yang. That is evidence of everything in creation as whole. From the void of the primordial mother, the seed of creation is the condensing of this diamond, which is the reflection of the primordial mother, which is yang. It gestates within the primordial womb to create. And you form from conception to a 9 cycle human life as we know it, which is the cycle of all things within Taoist path. And you find that evident. And that's where we refer to manifestation, perfection as the diamond. You are looking at all these things and they are facets. When I channel my teacher, Lutzu, and the 171 other teachers that I channel directly, I am having a dialogue with the monologue. They are transmutations of the primordial mother. That evidence is now, that information is validated, self-realized as a knowing by the ability to craft and become basically the maestro, have dominion over this film, this substance we call chi, we call Tao, we call Buddha, we call God, but it must be tangible, and that frequency must be obtainable so that you can validate it. It's not a fleeting moment, a transitory moment where you are having a delusional state. You're able to transmute and change something in this, as some people would call realm, dimension. We just refer to the frequency as the currency. And from that, everything is energy. You transmute it as energy. The energy has a vibration. The vibration has a frequency. That frequency, if met with a resonance that you can hold that frequency, oh, yes, it will be yours. Oh, yes, it will. And furthermore, that comes from the manifestation realm of manifesting teachers and life coaches, and get out there and take that stuff and do that thing. You cannot just sit back on the couch. Now, this I fear is a deluded state, because unfortunately within Taoism we talk about Wu Ji, which is the primordial mother. Between the breath in and the breath out is your Death Star moment. You are Luke Skywalker. If you want to hit that point, now you generate a resonance and you hold that resonance, and then it is a reflection of the primordial mother in this realm. We define that as Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort, more commonly referred to by this guy back in the 70s. He had this throwaway line, which everyone now, propagates over and over again as a form of consciousness, a spiritual, righteous path. It's called the flow, baby. Bruce Lee. And then, you get that. And funnily enough, what a coincidence, Bruce Lee learned all of his stuff from a Taoist teacher. Isn't that strange? But
isn't it just?
It's just another coincidence.
It's funny that you say about, these this sort of like love and light crowd. I pride myself on not being one of those people, on not being one of those. I call myself a healer, but I don't really heal anybody. I just sort of reflect back to you what's possible in you. Um, and I think that we've reached this sort of pinnacle moment in many different realms and many different places in humanity right now, in this dimension, if you will, in this realm, where we're starting to understand that actually the universal truth of love um, is all that there is, but you can't just love and light your way there. You have
Well,
to like,
gaslight your way there, maybe.
that's right. Exactly. You can't
Fake,
gaslight yourself there.
fake it till you make it, which I find a lot of. Fake it till you make it. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I think given that we're all still in bodies on some level, we're faking it that we are, the cosmic self because we're still here. We're still in the density. But I also know that there are a lot of people who do sort of take these tongue-in-cheek things like saying, "Oh, I'm in flow." Are you, or are you just like chronically late and disrespectful of people's times? Are you doing the work, or are you just being an asshole and saying that you're doing the work so that you can keep being an asshole? There's like all these things, that I think get sort of excused in those kinds of um, cultures and those kinds of communities, and I think it hurts our evolution collectively because it means that those of us who are doing our best to actually be of that true vibration of just like reciprocity and nowness and like allowing, this is now, 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 and I'm in it. Maybe it's ugly, maybe it's beautiful, maybe it's both, maybe it's neither. um, I feel that it kind of um, makes reality tighter, harder to penetrate through to the next thing that we're trying to get to, which is, in my perspective, I believe that humanity is seeking and reaching towards a reality where we remember these ancient truths on a collective level. And so long as there are people who are love and gaslighting their way into whatever reality that they believe that they are creating, um, it moves us further because then other people who don't yet understand any of these things, all they see is this wishy-washy woo-woo. And I'm like, "Ugh, there's real magic, there's real truth." You're talking about life cycle 9. Like when people have an understanding of the numerology and the magic of 9, 9 is so powerful. 9 is like, it's not even a thing. It's not even a number. It's like, everything is 9. And I forget who it was, but somebody was talking about, when I think it was Tesla, when you understand 369, you understand the universe. It's the truth. And meanwhile, we go about our business all day, every day, pretending that numbers are just numbers because we've learned them since we were children. But the things that shape our reality, numbers, shapes, letters, colors, that's all that there is here. And we take it so for granted. We think that it's also normal, but we got to evolve to the next level of it and not just see that it's like this rudimentary child play, but actually when we arrive from source, it's the first thing we learn because it's all that's true. And then we start to like formulate other truth around that truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this would bring me to, you know, we brushed over, fake it till you make it type of stuff. This is a sort of part of the spiritual new age awakening. 30 years ago, I'd have someone that would have a psychotic episode and be on the verge of being committed, and
Right.
they'd turn up on my doorstep, and I'd enlighten them with other facets of cultivating i.e., exercising these lower frequencies. And in turn, the lower frequency is from your perception. So, on a deeper level, if you look at Taoist magic, the infrastructure of Taoist magic is completely hinged upon the recipient.
Mm.
We charge the framework of that. And if you have a belief system that starts with emotional content, you will be victim of that magic and you
Mm.
will submit to it, because that is the very weakest point, the weakest, lowest link within your realization of who you are. So it's not that I go in with intent or ill intent when I frame out magic. It's to acquire a prescribed result from this material.
Mm.
Now, if someone believes that if you walk under a ladder, it's going to give you bad luck, it will give you bad luck. If you walk under a ladder and you believe it will give you good luck, it will give you good luck. You must get to the core of what your belief system is, and then you must be able to get over that line into a knowing, because furthermore, it's just propagated nonsense, talking head propaganda of your own making, because you're not being able to materialize a self-realized, evidence-based now moment. So when we say now, I'm not just talking about new age, like hippie age of Aquarius now. I'm talking about a methodology, a method to your madness, a system of alchemical processes that can solidify your knowing that you're not having a transitory sort of thought that materializes to nothing, but you're like, oh, I saw grandma. I did. Okay, so what are we doing with this? You have a premonition. You need to be able to validate it from a humanistic perspective to move past that into what we call the Wu Ji, where there's a point of no return, where you detach and attach to all things. Your imperium, your ability to then commandeer everything at will, place, person, or thing, because you are no place, person, or thing, your ability to access that substance, that primordial mother, will be evident in the material. And you mentioned the density. This is something that I find a lot of people are confused about. When you ascend, there is more energy than you know what to do with. There is not less. And this is a deluded state that most people get into, and they're like, well, that's not how I do it. That's how I'm like, well, show me. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm an 80s guy, so I'm going to take the Pepsi challenge with anyone on this one. You show me what you got, and I'll show you what I got, and we'll see who's delusional and who can actually create from this realm.
Mm.
Let's go. Let's go, go, go. And this is where people shit the bed. They're
Mm.
like, oh, well, I've been really good at saying the right words, when, where, and how, and everyone follows me like the Pied Piper, but I haven't really materialized anything, even though I say in that state, I'm a healer, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a psychic. And these are all, whenever I come across a shit disturber, I don't go, aha, I ousted you, you shit disturber. No, you know what I do? I
What?
put my hand out and go, come with me if you want to live. Have you ever seen Terminator 2? No, I'm just kidding.
Sure.
So that's where I'm like, hey, let's not keep fantasizing. Let's
Mm.
make it your reality. Let me help you return to who you are and remember who you are through a said evident based method that will give you that realization. And so
Mm.
it's not about, populating the world with Taoism through and through, some cult leader making everyone believe in the Tao. That's not, Taoism is very parallel to Gnosticism. Know
Mm.
thyself. This is your path. This is your self realization. Now,
Mm-hmm.
as a Taoist priest, I can go deep into the religion and talk about and get you to experience all the spirits and energies that I use within the realm of a Taoist alchemist. Now, if you
Mm.
just use alchemy to master yourself in this state of now, it's very important that you can work within the currency. The currency in this material is electromagnetism. You must be mindful that that is the currency. And from that, you will find that seeking moment where you find the Wu Ji that brings you to the Wu Wei, which is the effortless action, where you have now crossed over to a point of no return. That means the detachment and attachment of all things is that very now moment that you can commandeer attention, intention, materialize, manifestation, magic, healing. Now it's evidence-based. It's no longer a delusional state. You can go, all right, I just leave it up to the universe. The universe will provide for me. And then you sort of start sort of zeroing it in and telling yourself, well, the universe told me I need to eat shit this week. And next week, I kind of almost got hit and killed by a bus. It's all part of the universal determined path that I'm going on. Sorry. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. The universe doesn't have a moral compass, my dear friends. This is the deluded state. This is where people get so consumed by their own ego or personality that they believe that this is all about them. And so when people go, why, Jifu, why am I here? And I'll answer with a simple answer, why not? But it must be more. Well, that is determinative by you know what you know, you don't know what you don't know. So to create from this currency, there must be some self-evidence and self-realization that determines that you are not in the psyche, not in the mind, not deluded. You are in the present moment, and that comes from the cultivation of this substance. And then you're able to play with it like Play-Doh and stretch the electric from magnetic. And the alchemical process within that is when we go deep into the energetic architecture that you all possess, we all possess. And that's where that model, the Taoist alchemy model, is so sexy and alluring, because people want that. They want to feel as though they have a sense of knowing. That sense of knowing is not arrogance. That sense of knowing is not a conceited moment. When you're able to validate that, you return. And the ultimate return for anyone within a Taoist path is servitude, selflessness. You no longer are lured by these other things. Now, all this other stuff falls into that Wu Wei experience, that flow, baby. All of a sudden, oh man, I stopped being myopic about this one thing. I need to find my lover. I need to find the best job. I need to materialize an amazing house. I need to have $20 billion in my bank account. These are all great side effects of your mastery. But once you realize that they are unnecessary to acquire this state of now, all that shit just comes to you. Once you hit that, once you get that resonance, it'll be like, holy shit, this person is such a lucky son of a bitch. Everything this person does, they step in shit everywhere. And I always answer when someone goes, well, how are you today? It's good to me. What are your thoughts?
I love it. I have so many thoughts. You said so many incredible things. I think that you were talking a little bit about the delusion. And I think that we really are so deluded. And I think that it's hard to actually achieve what it is that so many of us on any path, right? On the path to self, it's really hard to achieve that. It's hard to be this magnetic being. One of the healings that I had received many, many years ago is called life activation, and it reorganizes your chakras, your elements, your magnetic energy, your etheric energy, and then it infuses light in your DNA. And then gives you 9 to 12 messages from your guides. It was so powerful that I was like, I got to learn this. And now I am blessed to give it to others. And it's this like 3,000-year-old lineage from King Solomon that I just have such reverence for. And when you were talking about the magnetism, I realize how these things that are so intangible, like, I know a lot of really, well-intentioned practitioners who, they do Reiki, they do this, they do that. And whenever people say to me, do you do Reiki? I'm like, you're heading in the right direction. Because what I do really does work on that magnetic energy. It really does work on that etheric. How are you picking up on the universe? What are you picking up from source? What are you really meant to tap into here and now? And are you in balance? What's your body doing? You're in one. And are you aware of it? Are you paying attention to your body? And I think that this idea of magnetizing what you want to you is, it gets so misconstrued in so many circles. And I think um, it also gets used almost abusively in some places. Like there are people who are like, just manifest it. And I'm like, no, no, we need to do a little bit more than just manifesting it. And it's not that simple. Like it's quite complex. But I feel very lucky that I have this understanding as you're speaking. Like it's clear to me that you are a teacher who's been teaching for a very long time, who has deep, deep knowledge, and knowledge in a way that it's unshakable in you. Like I don't think that anybody would try to talk you out of what you know. Which is how I know that somebody knows what they know, because there's no convincing you that you don't know what you know. You're like, actually, you couldn't prove me wrong if you tried. And if you tried, it would be fun because I could double prove to you that you're wrong, that you think I'm wrong, which is my favorite. And so, yeah, all of these well-intentioned people, I know I could convince them that they're wrong, or that one could convince them. I don't think I would try. I don't have time for that. But I know that one could convince them that they are wrong. And I wonder what you think, or what your thoughts are around, how do we get to a reality where people step back from that ego and allow themselves to learn? Because it's not easy to be in a learning mind.
It's interesting. I mean, you speak on a few things that I like to use. If you want to be instantly psychic 101, listen to the words that come out of people's mouths.
Mm.
If you want to decipher their inner thoughts and reality, or what is commandeering at an autonomic level, the very infrastructure of their state, you must listen. And people are like, wow. And you go back to one of my podcasts, people listen to the podcast and go, holy shit, I learned so much out of just listen. Well, that's the whole point of it, right? This conversation that we're having is bringing insight and intrigue and desire to want to find out who you are. And
Mm.
so, I would first beg to look deeper into the way that people frame their linguistics to determine their real perception. And so finding the truth of who they are and their ability to create, which is the the seed of every evidence of every human in the face of this earth, that is the mandate, that is the directive of humans, of the human condition. Now it's to decipher that, to be misaligned and then realigned by using a method, whether it's your method, whether it's my method. I don't sell people on the idea that Taoist alchemy is the ultimate. I always
Mhm.
remind people there are a million ways up the mountain. If you
Yes.
dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own. And I always remind people two wrongs make a right, because that blending of a belief system will ultimately return you to a knowing when you realize that it's cut from the same cloth. So now it's, what does it resonate to you? You mentioned everything: symbols, numbers, letters, words. All these things would be more on a Sherlock path that you could equate to this new age language that sometimes I refer to, if it's applicable to circumstance. The discovery within a human timeline of this DNA strand back in the 60s, and then furthermore, the curiosity of what who I've coined as the Keebler gnome, this guy by the name of Bruce Lipton, who then created this thing where you have a relationship and self-evident epigenetic deciphering of what you perceive. Because you mentioned DNA, so I imagine you've gone deeper and deeper into that category of
Quite.
understanding, and that you
Yes.
can commandeer. And that's where I always talk about returning to the imperium, the command, the dominion of this now moment, but it must be realized through the substance. This cannot be transitory. You must be able to hook into that resonance and then materialize, create. That is not a figment of your imagination, but a real manifestation of physical healing, a magic, as said before. And I teach you how to create within this material the evidence that will validate it for you. And
Mm.
so the energy potential is just a currency that we use. Ultimately, when you're hitting a resonance, that is not from this electromagnetic spectrum. This is a unified state. This is
Mm.
not, it's not polarizing. It's not one or the other. We are unified. This is how you get that recipe of knowing, because you're able to resonate this frequency, because everything is frequential, and present this evidence, manifestation, magic, healing. And I put it in those categories for their very simplistic, yet they're identifiable for most people. Their desire to find themselves will always start with this kind of curiosity of something greater than the mundane reality they see before them as the human condition. They go, oh my goodness, I went to sleep, I had a vivid dream, I heard grandma. I saw entities. I had this energetic like expansion. I can't describe it, but it's rocking my world. And this is the beginning, dear Watson, of the crumbs of your curiosity to find yourself, to return to who you are. That charge you're getting right now in the center of yourself, blossoming like a lotus, is that now moment. Hallelujah. Amen to you. And I'm just getting started. But it's exciting because then you
Yeah.
use things like the sensory perception that I used to be
Mm.
able to get deeper into that unity. And then,
Mm.
when you do things like that, when I share things like that, where people are like, how the fuck do you see that or feel that? How do you know I'm experiencing? It's all because this is part of a developmental skill. There is
Mm.
nothing that you cannot acquire. People get demystified by there's only five senses, and you have a nervous system, and your brain creates a brain wave, and this is this new age crap that someone like Dispenza propagates, and it kind of irritates me because
Mm.
between him and some of these other people, oh, am I using my personality now? Damn straight I am. As a
Mm.
personality, I will share that there is this sort of like method that he's using. Now, that
Mm.
could work for many people. I tend to find that I have stragglings. I've had tens, if not hundreds of people move from his program and end up on my doorstep going, that didn't work for me. I don't know what the hell, because everyone has their own unique path. This is what I'm saying.
Mm.
But when you say this is the absolute, there lies the very problem,
Mm.
because there is no absolute other than yours. Your absolute is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And when you come to that realization and you're not fed some nonsense that you're going to have this happen, this happen, this happen, if you use a framework like a cultivational practice that uses elements, that
Mm.
draws in these elements, that then creates the crystalline evidence-based alchemy where you separate electric from magnetic. What am I using as an example? Simple things like levitation, shocking people's nervous system with said charge cultivated from your own internal alchemy, that draws pause to create curiosity. People go,
Mm.
what the, how did you do that? And this is where I get sort of have this love affair with this, because I've had it since a young boy. And I consider my being an ambassador of Big Trouble in Little China and Last Airbender met and had a baby. And I give you that curiosity, that mystical path that goes deep into the roots of my knowing as a Taoist priest that I've been re-upping on for thousands of lives, and I'm sharing it here with you now. And that excites most curiosity seekers or Taoist
Mm.
seekers with this method. And then furthermore, they come across you and go, oh no, I'm into that that sexy King Solomon stuff, and that's giving me the wow factor. I'm getting all tickly and fuzzy inside because you're replicating what is deep inside you. Furthermore, as if we use the DNA model, if we want to validate it for the Keebler gnome and we want it to be true, okay, sure. Yes, these are all deep inside you at a subatomic level, and you will be expressed by that
Hmm.
within this material. And so when you gravitate to scripture, when you gravitate to letters, when you gravitate to numbers, this is your knowing. The expansion and contraction is the very decipher. That's all you need to determine what your truth is.
Hmm.
Into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's so funny. I love to pull apart what I have known as reality. I love to peel back those layers and to find that in the middle of the onion there's just like this nothingness. Because you know, yeah, to your point about having a personality, that's what I mean about being in a body. Like you are a person with a personality, and actually you incarnated in this personality in this body so that you could do the reminding and the remembering for others and for yourself, right? And it was that kind of understanding that I try to live my life by. And it's really special to get to meet to somebody in this world who also lives this way. I've been very fortunate in my life to meet some really incredible people, and some who have very fascinating and interesting personalities. And it's always, yeah, it's exceptional to me how many different perspectives we all hold and how fake they all are. Like every single one of us, we're all holding something about ourselves that we believe to be true. And, I always say about the life activation, which is the name of this King Solomon healing, I always say, like, first of all, I don't sell it to people. Like, I don't talk about it. It's not something that I'm like, do this. Like, you'll do it if you want to do it, and that'll be that. And most people who gravitate to me, I'm like, this would be beneficial for you. Do it if you want to do it or not. I don't care. It'll change your life, but it'll only change your life because you believe it will change your life. It changed my life. And I know that when you are on a path of allowing the universe to formulate things different for you, a system like that, a healing like that, any kind of like diving into the abyss of everything like that opens up doors that everything becomes completely different. Possibilities start to unveil themselves to you. And as you're in that possibility, then you're like, well, what else is there? Right. And I'm very lucky. I've put my toe in a lot of really cool modalities, and learned a lot about a lot of different things. I come, as you can see, from a lineage of book lovers and readers and studiers and historians. And, to my point about my father, I mean, he was a genius. He was a true genius, and is a true genius. And I think that the genius got confused about what is expected, um, when you go into the no thingness, that you have to sort of still have some kind of a persona. You still have to fall into some structure of what it is to communicate, to commune, to be in relation to another person. I think that still has a lot of structure to it. I think it'll change, particularly as telepathy starts to become normalized in the not distant future. Like I would say, it feels to me that in the next 150 years, like you won't just be picking, oh, I was just thinking about you. So funny you called. It'll be like, I'm thinking of you, and now you're thinking of me, and we're thinking of each other and sharing those thoughts. But because he didn't live in that reality, I think it's been a lot more difficult. And I'm always grateful to meet and commune with those who understand that, like, yeah, I'm just this persona now today so that you can be in this conversation, but not forever.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, oh my goodness, I apologize. It comes down to the detachment and attachment to a place of no return. Because
Mm,
once you are that present moment, your access of that state is at will. And then, of course, I always deter or am not a fan of someone erasing their personality. It's what we call within Taoism, when you act in virtue, you have none. It's
mm,
a clear case of confusion that
mm,
you are attempting to acquire a higher ascended state through your connection with God. And that would be a mistake. I like driving my side by side at 100 miles an hour in the desert. I like expressing myself through eating bonbons and watching Netflix. That has nothing to do with me not being no place, no person, no thing, and acquiring frequentially a healing state, a remembrance state, that
mm,
mirroring of the primordial mother to the said deficient subject, place, person, or thing will help them remember instantaneously through that transmission
mm.
of the truth. And
Yeah.
from that, you sort of create what this servitude, this selflessness, which is an acquisition. And, most students will be like, oh, Jeff, but I want to do the levitating thing and the healing and the energy and burning things with my hands and all that. That's all awesome wizardry that I will teach you, my dear friend. When you are on this path, once you acquire it, it's like a video game. You get to the next level, you pass go, you collect $200. It doesn't have the same allure, the same whimsical sort of like a desire as you have completed yourself. And
Mm,
so part of that journey is to develop these. Now, if you get stuck in the whimsical part of levitating and doing magical stuff where, I'll take my arm and put a skewer through it, pull it out, and there'll be no blood entry or exit point. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Yes, it's a state of energetic potential. And I can
mm,
show you that. That's not really a problem, but it pauses people to wonder and ponder over the idea of what is possible, because that seems supernatural. And this is the reason why I share these, what people consider supernatural, I call them super normal experiences, so that they can return to themselves. And when they do
yeah.
that, oh yeah, magical things happen. And so, you want people to, from a Taoist perspective, you are an ambassador to planet Earth, as is every planet within the cosmos has
Mm,
its own community. Even though you may personally not be able to see it with the naked eye through what we consider technology that determines which planet has some type of evidence of life force or not. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
gonna
like
be
as
speculating
if
that.
we can see all the atoms on our planet, as if we can interact with all of the energies and entities that are here. Like,
Right.
how much do you believe in this in this thing, you know?
And that's where you get to that next point. And when you
Right.
ascend to it, yes, that is possible. You can tap
Sure.
into it all. From my own knowing, through my own interaction with the spirit world,
Mm,
this is all tangible and it's self-evident. And I show people, when I walk down the street and I ask someone if they want a psychic reading, and they're like, sure, magic man, give me a psychic. Now we're in Vegas. So, I take my kids down to the strip and we play street magic day, where
cool.
we just, buzz people up, get them like blissful, show them some crazy stuff that contorts their version of reality and go, holy crap. And, when you tune someone up and have them in a state of bliss and their highest point of remembrance
Mm,
of the most blissful state of wholeness that they consider love in less than a fraction of a second, and they thought that was a diminished return that would never be realized again in their lifetime, they go, what the? But furthermore, you take it to that point and I go, okay, I'll give you a psychic reading. And my psychic readings are real simple. I just read the auric field, I read the energy centers, and I'll get the emotion, the virtue, and literally have an insight into your mental, emotional, and physical state in about 30 seconds. And people shit themselves. They go,
sure.
how do you do that?
Right.
Well, it's just energy, baby. It's just
Right.
energy. So when I read it, I always start at the bottom. So the
Mm,
first collective 9 energy centers, we call them dantians,
mm,
start at the earth, and then they run up what they call the traditional chakras within a Hindu system. And so
mhm,
the second energy center is the perineum. That would be the baseline for. So I'll start with the earth and the second. By the time I get to the third one, they're going, whoa, 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 whoa. This shit is real. Hey, look, I'm just reading off. Look, you've got some sexual frustration and issues and other things that diminish your desires for your partner. And they're like, stop, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's just there. This is the thing. I'm not attached to your approval. I don't need it.
right.
I do not
Right.
need to be approved by you to tell me that I'm the next coming of Jesus or I'm a psychic or whatever. I'm just reading them. And that's where people get sober. They're like, holy
Mm,
shit, this stuff is real.
mm,
Yes,
sure.
it is very real. And
Yes.
when you embody it, when you become no place, no person, no thing, even though from an observer's perspective, it'll be like, oh, this guy's a personality. If you saw me on the street, I'm wearing a Harley Davidson cap, ride a motorcycle. I look like one of those gorillas, those hairy biker bears, whatever you want to call them. But that does not stop me from accessing the now moment. And that's what
Mm,
disturbs people, because when you access or you refine what we call Nigong, which is internal power, is
mm,
what really the basis of the internal alchemy I teach people. You acquire the Nidan, which is the internal alchemy. So when you cultivate these properties that are yours and always have been, you can acquire all these senses. Literally, sensory perception is unlimited. What
mm,
you perceive in every dimension at once, as you would refer to as a dimensional state, you can operate all at once. And that's the thing that freaks people out, because you're like, oh, well, you're in your personality. You can't be of godlike. You can't be holy. You can't be conscious. You can't be awakened. You can't be aware. You can't be the now moment. And that's the delusion, because
mm,
when you refine this stuff, you can attach, reattach, detach at will instantaneously and operate everything at once. And
mhm.
that's part of the mastery. And that's the thing that freaks people out. You
Yeah,
know, it's you know what I'm talking about.
I I
As I,
I
as I
do.
put it, real recognize real. You know what I'm
Yes. Yes, exactly. I think it's one of my favorite things to do is to freak people out with my gifts. I always say I love a non-believer. I love
right,
somebody who doesn't believe in what I do, and I'm like, "That's cool. Want to see something?"
right, right.
With consent. With consent. I'm very, very, very like intent about consent.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. Your moral compass can make yourself feel better. No, I'm just
yes,
kidding.
that's right.
That's
um,
the delusion. It's like people are
yeah.
like, you can't enter my aura. I have protection. And then they're like, you're entering my aura. I'm not. I'm just, you are me. I am you. So if
Mhm.
I feel energy, you feel energy. They go, what the? It's like, what are you afraid of, my friends?
Right.
It's like two of the
Right.
same. And then you have that moral bullshit that people go over. It's like, you don't want to permeate my space. You need consent and all this kind of. Sure, stay in your moral compass and be limited, and that's all good. I mean,
Mm,
eventually you'll find yourself. You won't be bound by this moral delusion that comes from being human. The
mm,
universe doesn't operate in that currency, but most
mm,
people have to play with that electromagnetism for them to feel as though they're whole, even though they're not. There's a massive hole
mm.
in who they are that needs to be filled, but it comes from the approval, it comes from the validation of this said sort of communicate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm receiving it like a lot. Um, it makes so much sense because I'm like, my brain is going, listen all the way, be really here in it, really, really receive it. Cause yeah, I hear you. It's interesting. I've been having this thought um, around some of the things that are going on in the world and how to navigate. Some of them affect me very, very directly. And when they do, it's visceral for me. And my moral compass goes out the window, gone. I don't give a flying fuck. I'm like, let me just tell you what the fuck I see. Okay. Here's what I know. And the moral compass just it's gone. And I'm just saying what it is. And it makes people really uncomfortable. And I don't give a flying fuck, not one. And I've been feeling kind of guilty about it. I'm like, oh, but does a good person, does a good
Yeah.
healer, does a good this, does a good that? I'm gonna just be like, you know what? Jeffrey said it's fine.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. The first evidence that you have someone that is attempting to control you is when they have to filter and create authority over your spoken word. First
Mm,
red flag. You want to
mm,
realize whether you're being controlled. If you say, "How the fuck are you?" Excuse me, that offends me. Okay, well, go in another room and don't hear me say, "How the fuck are you?" And then come back in and let's resume business as usual. This is the very problem with the human
right.
condition. And so they're attempting to make
Mm,
themselves whole by creating an authority sort of space controlling who you are. And this is
mm,
basic evidence of manipulation, and this needs to be
yeah.
identified. We need to call it out for what it is, and that is a charge. That charge you and I are having right now, that aha moment, is recognized, and people don't like it.
Mm,
As I refer to Joe Dispenza. I do fondly love
no.
Dispenza, but let me just say, he loves this one liner. It's called, "Oh, no one likes to strike a match in a dark place." This is evidence of you moving out of the void, the primordial mother that will reveal itself to you
Mm,
to show you who you are. And it's not this mumbo jumbo mind control shit from Sigmund Freud. I mean, Sigmund Freud and his dear friend Carl Jung, who happened to
mm,
coin this the shadow work, which is what everyone uses in spiritual new age shit. These two
yes.
guys actually had conscious creation with the government at that particular time, creating mind control programs. Furthermore, creating a seed they called MK Ultra, which
Yep.
was seeded from their very construct of how they want to operate psychology. Oh
Mm.
my goodness! You look back and you follow the crumbs, you find the evidence,
And you
and
wonder why. You wonder why. I'm like, this is why I'm here to stand up against all of this mental health
right,
bullshit that's out there. It's
right,
not real and it suppresses a truth because it needs that truth to be suppressed, like to fall in line with what is being told to us collectively and to placate everybody's needs for like sensitivity. Um, it just feeds the opposite of what spirit really wants, in my perspective.
hmm
And I feel like, I don't know, it's not sustainable. Like whatever we're coming to the end of it. It feels like we're really coming to the end of it. And I don't know what it will look like on the other side. But
It's going to be magical. I mean, this, my feelings on my sleeve. You've
mm,
offended me.
mm,
These are all constructs of the human condition. I get it. I understand it.
massively.
You know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. When you come across yourself or myself, you get a sobering reality of what you don't know, and that's fine
Hmm.
because you're
Hmm.
supposed to be here. You're supposed to be expanding on
Right.
what it is that is your truth,
Right.
expanding on it and returning to who you are. And
Hmm.
the future is looking so bright. I think you need shades because the reality is, and it's interesting from your perspective as an astrologist.
Mm.
I want to talk about that because my teacher Latsu, I've been channeling him for over 30 years. It's an
Hmm.
experience in and of itself. If you ever want to look one up, you can have fun watching it on my channel.
Sure.
It's a visceral experience.
Mm.
You have a transmission and people freak out. It's like, I'm feeling heat from the screen. How the hell does that happen? This is just part of channeling.
Sure.
This is like
The
get
energy is moving.
the frequency, right? And so
Right.
this is a visceral somatic experience that you have, and it's not a psychosomatic experience, which everyone seems to go, oh, that's part of your delusion. What are you talking about? Basically, your evidence is the mind is creating a feeling. Yes, that's
Mm.
right. It's a trickling effect that it is not a no, it's a bad thing. Yet
Mm.
you've coupled it into this state of psychosis that you're making this shit up and it's now triggering a neurological effect that presents itself in the body. And I'm
Hmm.
like, holy shit, you really are trying to fuck people up with this nonsense. And it gets to a point where it's, in my opinion, out of control. And
Yes.
so,
Yeah, I think that pendulum has swung too far.
right, when you mentioned the brief moment where you had an NDE and it was generated from your thoughts of taking your own life, right?
Mm-hmm.
This in this stratosphere of YouTube, that word is now banned.
I know this.
It's like,
I
so
know
you have to
this.
say, hang on a second, unalive yourself.
And yet,
I
and
mean,
yet,
I
there
mean,
is a government literal, like in Canada. So I'm Canadian, okay? And in Canada right now, the government will pay for you for medical assisted dying, which is the same thing,
right.
but you
No,
can't
I
talk
mean,
about it.
it's nuts. It's
Yeah,
absolutely insane. And
yeah,
so people were coming to Latsu at the beginning of this year. I mean, they come to him all the time, but like,
sure.
what's going on? Tell me what he would say. Now, I'm as
Mm,
dumb as rocks. Most of the stuff comes out of my mouth, honestly, is coming from him. But if there's a few Neanderthal moments, that's definitely me. But
sure.
in essence, the truth is that when I just transmit him, and it's
Mm,
through my body, and you have a direct communication with an immortal,
mm-hmm,
people get freaked out. And his simplicity was, well, what's happening is that world death and destruction, the apocalypse, financial destruction, blah 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 blah.
mm,
And he was like, I mean, he's got a little personality himself. He's like,
cool.
imagine you're a grain of sand asking the beach, what are we doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized. I'm just like,
Mm,
holy shit, you make me like some type of prophet or some
mm,
genius that comes up with these incredible insights.
mm,
But that's the truth. It's like, and he made it very clear the narrative, and I validated this through a couple of physicists that read Schumann resonance, which is sort
mm.
of like
Yeah.
the heartbeat of the earth, right?
Yes.
And
Yes. The
so
frequency.
Lutz always talks in frequency. So
Yes.
whenever he does an interaction or reading, he speaks about the magnetic flow of the earth and how the sun transmits its frequency to the earth, affecting change, and it evokes specific elements within the said human that will
Mm-hmm,
present themselves in an emotional state. So you can conduct certain things within your ecosystem to maximize the peak ebb and flow of these transmissions from the universe to planet Earth so that you can optimize your experience. And he speaks in this type of language instead
mm-hmm,
of this nonsense that it's about you and it's your ego. And you need
mm-hmm,
to find out, well, what's going to happen to me, the human being within this? He's like, nah, I'm sorry. You're missing the point here. But
mm-hmm,
ultimately, the amplification of the frequency of the sun through the primordial mother, which is the center point of the sun. Now we can go deep into, said evidence of, what some physicists would call 0 point, or furthermore, the framework of that within the physics of entanglement
mm,
and how that relates to frequency within planet Earth and the universe. But ultimately, there are a couple of people floating, even self-proclaimed physicists like
mm,
Nassim Haramein. I don't know whether you ever heard of this guy. He has his own theory, and he claims he has receipts to the nature of the evidence of a black hole in everything within this universe.
mm,
Now, this is a very interesting realization for him, but it's a very knowing for a Taoist seeker. This particular practice has been cultivated for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years. And people are like, the Tao wasn't around the hundred. Listen, I can show you that it
right.
was very
It
present.
changed names. Just
Right?
relax. We've been
It's like,
practicing these things
easy
for a long
Sparky,
time.
right? Easy Sparky. So then they're like, well, what does that mean? Well, we have an ancient ritual called the death of a star, the raising of a red phoenix, and revealing black hole energy. And
Mm,
people go, I don't know what the fuck you said, but I'm feeling it. I believe you. I'm like, that's
sure.
right. And when you alchemize this stuff, it becomes real. And
Mm,
so part of that is being able to work and commandeer the substance within this material to make it realized. Now
Yes.
that alchemy will come in the form of that what frequently people call 0 point, or someone might call it a Max Planck unit of energy, referring to one of the peers of Albert Einstein from the 1920s and 30s, when he shit himself and he said that spooky action, it's a bending of reality, I'm going to go to my grave never knowing the answer. And of course people have finished the MC squared realizing that everything is interconnected. The now
Yes.
moment is the now moment, but you must get past the psychological profile of the mind,
Yes.
and it is not separate. And once you create that imperium and that substance is evident, with your attention, intention, instant manifestation, instant magic, instant healing, and that comes from the alchemy, the methodology that I speak of, and
Yes.
that will reveal the truth to you as a seeker. The now moment. But yeah, this nonsense about people talking about the idea that there's fear, death, and destruction. The biggest issue with that is that's a red flag. This is kind of a construct of the humanistic perspective, and it will always present itself in some level of fear. So people commandeer your attention, intention. It takes me only 3 seconds to give someone a crash course in hypnotic states, emerging the conscious and unconscious, for you to realize how quickly someone can commandeer your perceived idea of your mind. Because
Yes.
I will always remind people all thoughts of your mind are not yours. And they're like, who the hell's are they if they're not mine? Well, now there we go into a very interesting rabbit hole, Alice,
Right.
as we go down that into a much deeper understanding that, you can commandeer and create frequentially all this stuff. You understand the method. It
Sure.
doesn't have to be fleeting. So,
Yeah.
this state that, all thoughts of my mind are not mine is just the beginning of you returning to your knowing when you're able to validate it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
Perfect.
lot. It's
That's a lot.
beautiful.
We went on a magical mystery ride in the US submarine, and I think we did really well.
I agree. This was so fantastic. I would love to do this again with you anytime.
Yes, I would love that too. So we're going to do a part two. I'm going to put it on this right now. There will be
Super.
a part two. I'm going to finish this up today. I'm going to put all your social sphere and interweb connections under this
Sure.
podcast.
Great.
Normally, this is a couple of weeks. It gets on YouTube and then it goes out over 20 podcast platforms. The most
Great.
important thing
Yeah.
is for you to part this conversation with any insight. I want my disciples, my students, my 126s, my subscribers to go out and explore your offerings in great
Yeah.
detail. I want them to
Okay.
embody what it is that you're offering, what you're doing, whether it's a one-on-one session, a group session, healing, transmission, whatever it is. I want them to go and seek and find you. Furthermore, in
Oh,
closing, would you like to impart anything?
yeah. I mean, I hope for that too. Um, a lot of what I do is really just help people to see in their blind spots. There's a lot that is not seen. And, when you're hearing from the space of that quantum, when self from that quantum existence, who's thinking the thoughts, like the thoughts already exist. They're up there. They're for you to grab into and to transmute and alchemize and change in yourself. And so a lot of what I do is just like to show people what is there, what's on the other side of that thing that you keep not wanting to look at, much like what you're talking about in reading others. When you have an understanding like, oh, I'm manifesting this in my relationship, or I've been ignoring this in my job, or I do this, or I'm this way or that way, all of a sudden you're like, well, now what do I do about it? And that's where I come in. That's where I'm like, let me hold your hand, let me be your guide. I have a program called the Resilience Revolution. It is group coaching and one-on-one, it is very, very, very limited. We have 12 spots, and I might even keep it to 8 because I think I don't even have the capacity for that at this moment. There's too many other beautiful things evolving in my life that I'm so grateful for. So the resilience revolution is taking, I'm now accepting new clients, which is very exciting. And I am in the process of working on a couple of other things. I also do readings. If you are in the Toronto area, or if you are willing to come to me or have me come to you, the healings that I offer, including the life activation and crystal healings and things of that nature, as well as crystal gridding your home, your sanctuary, your space, wherever that might be. There's a lot of different things that I offer. I also have a podcast. It's called I'm Really Into That Stuff. It's fun conversations with people who are into that stuff. It definitely has a light and airy mood to it. They're fun conversations with cool people that I enjoy. So that brings me a lot of joy. And so you can also go to my website. It's janastern.com, JANASTERN.com. And on every single social media platform, you can find me at Jana Stern Healer. I'm available on all of the platforms in that form, and I'm usually pretty good at responding to messages and emails and stuff, but I don't really exist in all of the dimensions all the time. So my email literally signature says, "Time is fake. I'll get back to you in 72 hours. Don't get too excited," because I'm not changing the world tomorrow. I'm changing it over time. So give me time, because sometimes I float away into nothingness. It's the Pisces in me. So, I also do astrology readings, and there are sort of quickies and longies that are available, and you can dive into all of that stuff on my website. And any questions, feedback, any of that kind of stuff, just send me a message that says "no thing," and I will, drop in with you. We can go there wherever there may be.
Booyah!
Yeah.
Hallelujah! That's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time
Thank
with me today.
you.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
really grateful that you accepted the invitation.
Me too.
I'm very grateful for you. I'm grateful for the universe bringing you into my life. And
Mm.
I am your humble servant and seafood, Taoist Master San Qing. And I'll see you on the next one, guys.